Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Weekly Movie Minute. I am Joe from Create Context, and today we are talking about the new movie Warfare. Alex Garland's Civil War came out in 2024 and was a huge success for A24. That film is a story of journalists on a cross-country road trip to grab the story of the collapse of an overthrown Washington, D.C. Civil War was surprisingly short on action, save for the last dramatic invasion of the White House itself by this newly formed militia consisting of Texas and California. That's where the Civil War came from. Those two states seceded and took on the government as a whole. That final scene with the soldiers storming through the White House is intense, and it's set in real time as the soldiers conquer with military efficiency their final goal. Fans of Alex Garland and that scene in particular will be happy to know that Warfare is essentially that one scene spread out over an hour and a half. Warfare tells the true story of a Navy SEAL team stationed in Ramadi, Iraq, and the harrowing experience they faced on November 19, 2006. Warfare is co-directed by Garland and former Navy SEAL Ray Mendoza. Ray Mendoza served as the military advisor for Civil War, and it was here that Garland had the idea for his next film, one that would be helmed by the two of them, but mostly by Mendoza. Entering with this knowledge, it's quite impressive the technical mastery Mendoza is able to pull off with Warfare. The film is an intense, real-time depiction of one battle gone awry, a battle Mendoza himself was a part of, and this film is based solely off his memories of the event. Warfare follows the SEAL team as they commandeer a house in the town of Ramadi, only to be quickly outmanned and outgunned by the surrounding enemy. The team takes massive casualties, care for their wounded, and attempt to return fire to an ever-growing enemy. The film is intense, fast, and almost totally devoid of any distractions. There is no music, no slow-mo action shots, and no Rambo-like hero figures centering the film. It's just a group of men fighting a battle that seems harder and harder to win the longer and longer it goes on. The entire film is presented with as little style or formalism as possible, making it read almost closer to a documentary than an actual Hollywood film. Like Garland's previous movie Civil War, Warfare puts you front and center for the action and never stops once to provide commentary. This is where I found maybe my only real shortcoming with Warfare. It's a movie about the Iraq War, but it isn't really saying anything about that war or war in particular. I believe this was both the director's goals, but there is no real theme or message trying to be portrayed in Warfare. It's an intense 90-minute war movie that has very little to say about its characters or their action. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, though. I know I said it was maybe my only shortcoming, but to be honest, there have been countless films critiquing the U.S. operations in Iraq, but Warfare feels painfully devoid of a bigger message, and I think that's on purpose. It's mesmerizing to watch and hard to look away from, but as soon as the credits roll, there isn't much to think about. We're just kind of there, sitting in what we just saw. Warfare does make some strange choices with its ending after the narrative is complete, which kind of further makes the film a little more perplexing. A quick montage plays of the real-life soldiers who fought in this conflict, but most of their faces are blurred out. It's a bizarre choice, and I'm not totally sure if this was done for legal reasons or because the real-life characters didn't want their faces out there. Either way, the inclusion of this sizzle reel with that kind of asterisk mark make the entire film feel a little more perplexing. Strange endings aside, Warfare is a masterfully made film. Alex Garland stated in a recent interview with The Wrap that Mendoza took over the bulk of the directing duties. It's astonishing what he's able to pull off, and it feels like one of the most true-to-life war movies I've ever seen. Imagine the Normandy scene from Saving Private Ryan, but that scene practically runs the entire length of the movie. As soon as the bullets start flying in Warfare, they never let up, and the audience never gets a chance to catch their breath. As a visual representation of war, this feels true to form. There are no nicely planned action breaks or moments of reflection. It's full speed ahead until the conflict is resolved one way or another. But as a film, it makes the entire experience just a dizzying blur. Mendoza can frame and direct combat better than any filmmaker I can think of, and what he's created here is not for the faint of heart. Where Warfare really shines, though, is in its sound design. There were a few moments of explosions or gunfire that literally made me jump in my seat. The sounds presented are intense and vary from loud explosions to long echoes of voices that are barely audible. This is done to convey the tunnel vision that comes with the adrenaline rush of war. It's a smart move and one that works perfectly in the confines of this film. Mendoza stated that there were several moments in this skirmish that he's using as the premise for the movie where he actually blacked out and couldn't remember some pieces of the conflict. This feels true of the audience as well. We are never following just one protagonist, but we are embedded in a crew of people. Even though the camera never stays on one subject, there is still so much going on that it's impossible to keep up with everything. These audio cues where the noises fade and then quickly snap back into place make it feel like you are a part of the action, trying to comprehend everything around you only to realize it's still happening. Warfare is a technical marvel, an auditory feast, and an incredible true story, but its lack of an overall theme or message left me feeling a little empty when I left the theater. I was a part of these wars myself. I went to Afghanistan in 2011, and the feeling of Warfare is eerily similar to that of my actual experiences. Maybe not the film itself, but leaving the theater. When the combat ends and there's nothing left to do but just kind of sit with your thoughts, it's hard to find meaning in all of the immense emotions you just experienced. I may have liked for Warfare to give me a clear message, but my guess is Ray Mendoza longs for that as well. This is a film chronicling his experiences on what no doubt was an unforgettable and painful day. But at the end of that day, it must have been impossible to surmise a meaning or a theme for your experience. Warfare does its job honoring the men it portrays, and it even hints at the damage they left behind in the country of Iraq, the innocent people that get caught in that shuffle. But it never tells you how to feel about it, because for those who fought, sometimes it's just impossible to convey those feelings. If you like Warfare or you're looking for something similar, I have a few recommendations. First, I'd check out Jarhead, the 2005 film from Sam Mendes. This film shows a lot less action than Warfare, but it still feels very true to the experience of a soldier. Most war films try to focus on grand, epic battles, but Jarhead instead examines the mindset of a soldier, someone who has been trained to do a job, and how conflicted they feel when they either do or do not get to perform that job. It also has an excellent performance from Jake Gyllenhaal and Peter Skarsgård. They're fantastic in that movie. Next, I actually want to recommend a TV show, a show called Generation Kill. This 2008 miniseries aired on HBO in 2008 and follows the Marine Corps' 1st Recon Battalion through the 2003 invasion of Iraq. Like Warfare, Generation Kill has very little formalism, meaning it's attempting to be as real life as possible. There is no score, no fancy editing techniques. It just puts you in the action and trenches, so to speak, with this group of Marines. I particularly love James Ransom's performance in the show. He's an incredibly talented actor who got his start in a Larry Clark film named Ken Park. You might remember Larry Clark as the director of Kids, and Ken Park is actually kind of an awful film. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone, and truly, at times, I can't believe Larry Clark never got arrested or ended up in prison for the things he made kids do on film. But Ransom was fantastic in that movie and excellent in everything he's done since. Lastly, I'd recommend Gunner Palace, a documentary from 2004 that followed the 2nd Battalion, 3rd Field Artillery Regiment during their deployment to Iraq. This movie is probably the closest thing many can really get to understanding the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan and what they were really like. It closely follows these soldiers, most of them very young adults, while they try to grasp and come to terms with the reality that they're in, being away from home and actually fighting in a war. So much of a deployment is downtime with few activities to occupy your time that's intercut with these intense moments of high adrenaline gunfights. Gunner Palace is a great documentary, especially if you're looking for a glimpse into the life of a soldier during the Iraq War. Thank you guys so much for hanging out at the Weekly Movie Minute. We'll be back next week with Sinners, I think. That movie's going to be awesome. I'm really stoked for it. If you guys like this, subscribe. That would be so cool. I'd really appreciate it. And I'll see you guys next time.